What if I told you that 5 seconds every morning could be the difference between your body storing fat and burning it all day long? When you add cinnamon to your coffee before your first meal of the day, you're not just combining the pleasant flavors. You're creating a biochemical partnership that amplifies fat burning in ways that neither ingredient could achieve alone. This is what scientists call synergy, where the combined effect is greater than the sum of individual parts. Let's start with what coffee does to your body. The caffeine in your morning cup stimulates your central nervous system, triggering a release of adrenaline. This hormone signals your fat cells to break down stored fat and release it into your bloodstream as free fatty acids. Your metabolic rate increases, your body temperature rises slightly, and you begin burning more calories even while sitting still. Research shows this thermogenic effect can boost your metabolism by anywhere from 3 to 11%, depending on the individual and the amount of caffeine consumed. But here's the challenge with coffee alone. When you drink it on an empty stomach and then eat breakfast, you can experience a significant blood sugar spike. Your body releases insulin to deal with this surge, and excess insulin is a powerful signal that tells your body to stop burning fat and start storing it. So, while the caffeine is trying to liberate fat from your cells, the insulin response from your meal is working against it. This is where cinnamon changes everything. Cinnamon contains bioactive compounds, particularly polyphenols, that fundamentally alter how your body processes glucose. These compounds actually mimic the action of insulin at the cellular level, but in a more controlled, gradual way. When cinnamon is present in your system before you eat, it helps your muscle and liver cells become more receptive to insulin. This means your body doesn't need to produce as much insulin to handle incoming glucose from your breakfast. The result is remarkable. Your blood sugar remains more stable, insulin levels stay lower, and your body can continue accessing those fat stores that the caffeine helped mobilize. Instead of switching into storage mode, you remain in fat-burning mode throughout your morning. The caffeine provides the initial spark, revving up your metabolism and releasing fatty acids, while the cinnamon keeps the door open for your body to actually use those fatty acids as fuel instead of storing them back. There's another layer to this synergy that's equally important. Cinnamon slows gastric emptying, which means food moves more gradually from your stomach into your intestines. This creates a sustained release of nutrients rather than a flood, which further prevents blood sugar spikes. Meanwhile, the appetite-suppressing effects of caffeine are extended because you feel fuller for longer. You're not just burning more fat in the moment, you're also reducing the likelihood that you'll overeat later in the day. The thermogenic properties of both substances also work together. Coffee raises your core temperature and increases calorie expenditure through heat production. Cinnamon has its own mild thermogenic effect and improves the way your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, generate energy from nutrients. When combined, these effects create a metabolic environment that's optimized for fat oxidation rather than fat storage. Your blood sugar is like a roller coaster that most people don't even realize they're riding. Every time you eat, glucose floods into your bloodstream. Your pancreas detects this surge and releases insulin, a hormone whose job is to shuttle that glucose into your cells for energy or storage. But here's the problem. When this happens too quickly or too dramatically, your body goes into panic mode. It releases more insulin than necessary, your blood sugar crashes, you feel hungry again within an hour, and worst of all, your body gets the signal to store everything it can as fat because it thinks you're in some kind of crisis. This is the daily cycle that keeps millions of people trapped in a pattern of cravings, energy crash, and stubborn fat that won't budge no matter how much they exercise. And it all comes down to blood sugar control. If you can stabilize your blood sugar, you can fundamentally change how your body handles food and fat. Cinnamon contains powerful compounds called polyphenols, and these molecules do something extraordinary. They mimic insulin at the cellular level. Think of insulin as a key that unlocks the door to your cells, allowing glucose to enter. Cinnamon polyphenols act like duplicate keys. They help your cells open up and absorb glucose more efficiently, which means your pancreas doesn't have to flood your system with as much insulin to get the job done. When you consume cinnamon before eating, you're essentially priming your cells to be more receptive. Your muscle cells and liver cells become more sensitive to insulin signals. This is called improving insulin sensitivity, and it's one of the most important metabolic advantages you can create for fat loss. When your cells are insulin sensitive, smaller amounts of insulin can do more work. Your blood sugar doesn't spike as high after meals, and it doesn't crash as low afterward. The research on this is compelling. Studies have documented that as little as half a teaspoon of cinnamon per day can reduce fasting blood sugar levels by significant margins. Some research shows reductions of up to 29% in people with elevated blood sugar. Even in healthy individuals, the effect is measurable. Your glucose curve becomes flatter, more controlled, more stable throughout the day. This stability has cascading effects on fat burning. When your blood sugar is stable, your insulin levels remain low and steady. Low insulin is the green light your body needs to access stored fat for energy. High insulin, on the other hand, is a red light. It literally blocks the enzymes responsible for breaking down fat. So, by keeping insulin low through cinnamon's blood sugar stabilizing effects, you're keeping your body in a state where it can continuously tap into fat stores. There's also the issue of what happens between meals. When your blood sugar is stable, you don't experience those desperate hunger pangs that drive you to the vending machine or the pantry. Your energy levels remain consistent, your mood stays even. You're not riding that roller coaster of highs and lows that makes healthy eating feel impossible. Cinnamon helps flatten that curve, and in doing so, it makes fat loss not just possible but sustainable. One of the biggest obstacles to successful fat loss isn't what happens during your workout or even what you eat at meals. It's what happens in between. It has those moments 2 hours after breakfast when you find yourself rummaging through the kitchen looking for something, anything, to satisfy a craving you can't quite shake. It has the afternoon slump when you reach for chips or cookies because you feel genuinely hungry even though you ate lunch. This constant battle with hunger and cravings derails more diet plans than anything else. The root cause of these cravings is often how quickly your stomach processes and empties food into your small intestine. When food moves rapidly from your stomach to your intestines, several things happen. First, you get a quick spike in blood sugar as nutrients flood your system all at once. Second, your stomach empties and sends signals to your brain that it's time to eat again. Third, you miss out on the prolonged feeling of fullness that comes from slower, more gradual digestion. This is where cinnamon demonstrates another powerful mechanism for fat loss. Cinnamon doesn't just affect blood sugar directly through its insulin-mimicking properties. It also physically slows down the rate at which your stomach empties its contents. This process is called gastric emptying, and the speed at which it happens has enormous implications for appetite control and fat storage. When you consume cinnamon with your coffee before eating, those bioactive compounds interact with your digestive system in a way that delays gastric emptying. Your stomach holds on to food longer, releasing it gradually into your intestines rather than dumping it all at once. This creates what researchers call enhanced satiety, the scientific term for feeling full and satisfied for extended periods. The benefits of this are multifaceted. When food enters your intestines slowly, the glucose from that food enters your bloodstream slowly. You avoid the dramatic spike and subsequent crash that triggers hunger and cravings. Your body has time to properly signal fullness to your brain through hormones like leptin and peptide YY. These satiety hormones take time to build up and communicate with your hypothalamus, the part of your brain that regulates hunger. Slower gastric emptying gives this system time to work properly. Think about what this means practically. You eat breakfast, and instead of feeling hungry again 90 minutes later, you feel satisfied for 3 or 4 hours. You're not thinking about food constantly. You're not fighting cravings or using willpower to avoid snacking. Your body is genuinely content because it's still processing and utilizing the nutrients from your last meal. This is metabolic efficiency at its finest. Fewer cravings translate directly into fewer calories consumed throughout the day. You're not adding an extra 200 calories from mid-morning snacks or another 300 from afternoon grazing. Over the course of a week, that's thousands of calories you've effortlessly eliminated simply by feeling more satisfied. And when you consume fewer calories while maintaining stable energy levels, your body has no choice but to turn to stored fat for fuel. The extended satiety that cinnamon provides isn't just about comfort or convenience. It's a legitimate fat-burning advantage that compounds day after day. Most people think that what you consume matters more than when you consume it, but in the world of metabolism and fat burning, timing can be just as critical as the substance itself. You can have all the right ingredients, all the right supplements, all the right foods. But if you introduce them at the wrong moment in your metabolic cycle, you miss out on their full potential. This is especially true when it comes to using cinnamon and coffee as a fat-burning strategy. The 15 to 30-minute window before your first meal is metabolically unique. During this time, you're still in a semi-fasted state. Your body has been without food for 8 to 12 hours, depending on when you last ate the night before. Your insulin levels are at their lowest point of the day. Your body is primed to use fat for energy because there's no incoming glucose to burn. This is the ideal environment for fat oxidation, and it's the window you want to leverage. When you drink cinnamon coffee during this window, you're introducing compounds that will prepare your metabolic machinery for the incoming meal. The polyphenols in cinnamon begin interacting with insulin receptors on your cells, making them more sensitive and responsive. Think of it as warming up before exercise. You're not just jumping into activity cold, you're preparing your body to perform at its best. By the time food arrives, your cells are already primed to handle glucose efficiently without requiring a massive insulin response. This is fundamentally different from adding cinnamon to your food or drinking cinnamon coffee with your meal. When you consume them together, everything hits your system simultaneously. The glucose from your breakfast and the cinnamon compounds are competing for attention. Your body is already in reactive mode, dealing with the incoming food, and the cinnamon is playing catch-up rather than getting ahead of the curve. The 15 to 30-minute gap allows the cinnamon to establish a baseline of improved insulin sensitivity before any glucose appears. It's preventive rather than reactive. Your cells have time to adjust their receptors, your digestive system begins the process of slowing gastric emptying, and your metabolic rate gets a boost from the caffeine before any calories from food enter the equation. You're essentially stacking the metabolic deck in your favor. There's also a psychological component to this timing that shouldn't be overlooked. When you create a deliberate ritual around your morning routine, when you drink your cinnamon coffee and then wait before eating, you're practicing mindfulness about your metabolism. You're making intentional choices rather than operating on autopilot. This awareness often extends to other decisions throughout the day. People who are intentional about their morning metabolism tend to be more conscious about their food choices at lunch and dinner as well. The waiting period also allows you to assess your actual hunger levels. Sometimes we eat breakfast out of habit or schedule rather than genuine physical need. That 15 to 30 minutes gives you a chance to feel the appetite-suppressing effects of caffeine and the blood sugar stabilizing effects of cinnamon. You might discover you're not as hungry as you thought, or you might eat a smaller portion because the coffee has already begun to create satiety signals. Not all cinnamon is created equal, and this is where most people make a critical mistake that undermines their results before they even begin. Walk into any grocery store and you'll find cinnamon on the spice aisle. It's cheap, it's readily available, and most people assume it's all the same. But there are actually two distinct types of cinnamon commonly sold, and the difference between them matters significantly when you're reusing cinnamon as a metabolic tool for fat burning. The cinnamon you typically find in supermarkets is called cassia cinnamon. It comes primarily from China, Indonesia, and Vietnam. It has a strong, spicy flavor and a dark reddish-brown color. It's inexpensive to produce, and that's why it dominates the market. For culinary purposes, for adding a bit of flavor to your baked goods or oatmeal, cassia works fine. But when you're consuming cinnamon daily in therapeutic amounts for metabolic benefits, cassia has a significant drawback. Cassia cinnamon contains high levels of a compound called coumarin. Coumarin is a natural substance that in large amounts can be toxic to the liver and kidneys. When you're taking half a teaspoon of cinnamon every single day, those coumarins add up. European food safety authorities have actually issued warnings about regular consumption of cassia cinnamon for this exact reason. You're trying to improve your health and burn fat, but you could inadvertently be stressing your liver in the process. Ceylon cinnamon, on the other hand, is called true cinnamon. It comes primarily from Sri Lanka and has a lighter, tan-brown color. Its flavor is more delicate, slightly sweeter, and more complex than cassia. But the real advantage of Ceylon cinnamon is its coumarin content, which is virtually negligible. Studies show that Ceylon cinnamon contains up to 250 times less coumarin than cassia varieties. This makes it safe for daily consumption at the doses needed to see metabolic benefits. When you're using cinnamon as a daily supplement for fat loss, you need to be thinking long-term. This isn't a 2-week experiment. You're establishing a habit that could last months or years. Ceylon cinnamon allows you to do that safely without worrying about cumulative toxicity. The small price difference, usually just a few extra dollars per container, is negligible compared to the peace of mind and safety profile you get. The other consideration is potency. While both types of cinnamon contain beneficial polyphenols, Ceylon cinnamon has a different composition of these compounds. Some research suggests that Ceylon's polyphenol profile may actually be more effective at improving insulin sensitivity, though the data is still emerging. What's clear is that Ceylon gives you the benefits without the risks, making it the obvious choice for anyone serious about using cinnamon strategically. Finding Ceylon cinnamon requires a bit more effort. You need to read labels carefully. Look for terms like Ceylon cinnamon or cinnamomum verum on the packaging. Many health food stores carry it, and it's readily available online. Buy it in stick form or as a powder, but make sure you're getting the real thing. Half a teaspoon per day is the target dose that research supports for metabolic benefits. There's a seductive appeal to extreme measures. Crash diets that promise 10 pounds in a week. We're drawn to these approaches because they feel significant, like we're really doing something dramatic enough to match the dramatic results we want. But here's the uncomfortable truth that most people don't want to hear. The most effective fat loss strategies are almost always the boring ones, the simple habits repeated so consistently that they become invisible parts of your daily routine. Adding cinnamon to your coffee before eating sounds too simple to matter. It takes 5 seconds, it costs almost nothing. There's no suffering involved, no willpower required, no dramatic sacrifice. And that's exactly why it works, because you can do it every single day without thinking about it, without negotiating with yourself, without needing motivation or discipline. It just becomes what you do, as automatic as brushing your teeth. Compare this to someone who decides to completely overhaul their diet overnight. They eliminate entire food groups, buy all new groceries, meal prep for hours on Sunday. For a week, maybe 2 weeks, they're perfect. They follow the plan exactly, but then life happens. They get busy at work, they travel, they get invited to a birthday dinner. The system is so rigid and demanding that one deviation feels like total failure and they abandon the whole thing. They're back where they started, sometimes worse off because they've reinforced the belief that they can't stick to anything. Intensity gets attention, but consistency gets results. A small metabolic advantage repeated 365 days a year will always outperform a dramatic intervention that only lasts 3 weeks. When you add cinnamon to your coffee every morning for a month, you're not just benefiting from improved insulin sensitivity on any single day. You're teaching your body a new metabolic baseline. Your cells adapt, your hormones recalibrate, your appetite patterns shift. These changes compound on each other in ways that aren't visible day to day but become undeniable over weeks and months. The challenge isn't finding the perfect strategy. The challenge is finding a strategy you can actually execute consistently without relying on heroic levels of willpower. This is why simple wins. This is why adding one ingredient to something you already do every morning is more powerful than an elaborate protocol you'll abandon after 2 weeks. You don't need more information or a more sophisticated plan. You need something you'll actually do tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. A 30-day commitment to this practice isn't about perfection. It's about building evidence for yourself that small, consistent actions produce measurable change. You track your energy levels, your cravings, how your clothes fit, maybe your weight if that's meaningful to you. You notice the subtle shifts that happen when your blood sugar is more stable, when your metabolism is slightly elevated, when you're not constantly battling hunger between meals. And those observations create momentum that extends beyond just the cinnamon coffee ritual into other areas of your health and nutrition.